While my husband drains our joint accounts to shower his girlfriend with $98,000 in diamond jewelry, I'm quietly finalizing documents that will freeze his access to the family trust fund he has no idea I control, as he plans their secret vacation to Santorini using our children's college savings. I'm orchestrating the greatest wake-up call of his entitled life. He has no clue that his financially naive wife has been the primary trustee of his family's fortune for the past 4 years. Before we dive deeper, tell us where you're watching from, and if this story touches your heart, make sure you hit subscribe, because tomorrow's video reveals what happened when he tried accessing his frozen accounts for the first time. You won't want to miss it. My signature flows smoothly across the final document as I sit in my lawyer's sunlit office. Outside the window, the vibrant Boston skyline stretches before me, the city buzzing with midday energy. 40 floors below, my husband William is lunching at Maison Laurent with his girlfriend Natasha, completely unaware of what's transpiring in this moment. The restaurant's distinctive copper awnings gleam in the May sunshine, the same restaurant where he proposed to me 8 years ago. "Mrs. Sullivan, I need to ask one more time. Are you absolutely certain about proceeding today?" Rebecca, my attorney, studies me with a mixture of professional concern and personal admiration. Her sleek gray pantsuit contrasts with the casual confidence in her voice. After 15 years handling high-profile family trust disputes, very little surprises her anymore. But my case, as she's mentioned several times, is exceptional in its thoroughness. I respond by turning my phone toward her. The screen displays William's most recent credit card transaction from 30 minutes ago, a $2,700 lunch at Maison Laurent, complete with a $600 bottle of champagne. Just below it, a notification from our home security system showing him leaving our Beacon Hill brownstone this morning carrying an overnight bag. The timing, I say, capping my Mont Blanc pen, a 5th anniversary gift from William's parents, is perfect. My phone vibrates with a text from William. "Working late tonight. Major client emergency. Don't wait up. Love you." I've saved hundreds of messages like this from the past 7 months. Each one correlates precisely with charges at luxury hotels, high-end restaurants, or boutique jewelry stores. Each one aligns perfectly with Natasha's suspiciously lavish Instagram posts, all featuring carefully angled shots that never quite reveal her generous admirer's face, but always manage to showcase his distinctive Patek Philippe watch. The watch I helped his mother select for his 35th birthday 2 years ago. What William doesn't realize is that I've known about the affair since its beginning. Unlike what he might expect from his sheltered housewife, I didn't confront him when I found the first evidence. I didn't throw his tailored suits onto our manicured lawn or slash the tires of his Range Rover. Instead, I did what my father, a federal prosecutor for 30 years, taught me. I gathered evidence, methodically, meticulously, without emotion clouding my judgment. This document, Rebecca points to a particularly important legal form, initiates the trust fund audit process. Once filed, there's no turning back. I think about this morning, how William kissed my cheek before heading out, how he promised we'd finally take that trip to Greece this summer. Meanwhile, I'd already discovered the Santorini villa reservations he'd made, not for us, but for him and Natasha next month, paid for with money transferred from our children's college. Savings accounts. Good, I say decisively, my flowing signature completing the final authorization. That's exactly what I want. My phone alerts me to a new Instagram post. Natasha sharing a photo of a distinctive blue jewelry box with the caption, "When he knows exactly what your heart desires, thar blessed Garkshire spoiled." I screenshot it, noting the timestamp. It matches perfectly with the $98,000 transaction at Cartier on our joint credit card, the one William believes I never check because finances stress you out, sweetheart. Rebecca begins organizing the substantial portfolio of evidence I've compiled over months of silent observation. The forensic accounting team will begin their investigation Monday morning, she explains. Based on what you've already uncovered about his trust fund manipulations, they'll likely find twice as much. 3 times as much, I correct her, opening a secure folder on my tablet. Here's every transaction he's attempted to hide through. That shell company he established last year. The one where Natasha mysteriously became a marketing consultant 4 months ago, despite her only professional experience being as a part-time yoga instructor and aspiring lifestyle influencer. Rebecca's eyes widen as she scrolls through the meticulously organized documents, bank statements, and transfer records. This is remarkably thorough. I had plenty of free evenings, I reply with a dry smile. You know, with all his client emergencies? On cue, my phone buzzes with a group text from our neighborhood friends planning a weekend barbecue. William responds immediately. So sorry, everyone, have to miss. Flying to Chicago for business Sunday morning. I suppress a knowing smile. I've already seen his real Sunday plans. A day trip to a vineyard in the Berkshires with Natasha, charged. To our family credit card yesterday. Last document, Rebecca announces, sliding the final form across the polished mahogany desk. This initiates the comprehensive trust fund investigation and temporarily freezes all discretionary spending accounts. I don't hesitate. My signature flows across the paper, years of silent anger and calculated patience channeled into each stroke of the pen. The Vanderbilt Sullivan Family Trust, established by William's great-grandfather in 1952 and now worth over $87 million, will no longer be his personal ATM for impressing his mistress. My phone lights up with a notification that William has just gone live on Instagram from what's supposedly his business lunch, the distinctive copper ceiling of Maison Laurent visible in the background as he talks about networking and building client relationships. Let them celebrate, I say, rising from my chair and smoothing my Burberry dress. A guilt gift from William after a particularly expensive weekend with Natasha in New York. By Monday morning, they'll have a very different story to share. Rebecca gathers the papers, her expression both impressed and slightly unnerved. In 17 years of handling trust fund disputes, I've never seen anyone quite as prepared, I suggest, picking up my Hermes handbag, another guilt gift. Strategic, she corrects with a knowing look. Or maybe just tired of being underestimated. As I walk out of her office, my phone buzzes one final time. William's nightly check-in. Miss you, beautiful? Can't wait to come home to you tomorrow. I smile, typing back. Sleep well, darling. Monday's going to be interesting. He'll think it's just another loving message from his unsuspecting wife. But then again, he always did underestimate me. That's about to become his most expensive mistake. Little does he know, while he's been playing his short-sighted games, I've been executing a much longer strategy. 4 years ago, when his father suffered a massive stroke, I was the one who helped reorganize the family's estate planning. William was too busy with his networking events to attend the meetings with the family attorney. He never bothered to read the updated trust documents, the ones that made me, his supposedly financially illiterate wife, the primary trustee of the Vanderbilt Sullivan family fortune. Monday morning can't come soon enough. The morning after signing those initial papers, I dress with meticulous precision. A cream Chanel blazer paired with tailored navy trousers, Louboutin, heels, and the diamond tennis bracelet William's grandmother gave me last Christmas. The mirror reflects exactly what William expects to see. His perfectly polished wife, the former art history major he loves to introduce as his beautiful but financially innocent partner at family gatherings. If he only knew I spent 4 years as a financial analyst at Morgan Stanley before we met, specializing in trust management and generational wealth transfer. A career I put on hold when we married because William insisted one high-powered career in the family was enough. You'll never have to worry about money again, he'd promised. How right he was, though not in the way he intended. Good morning, darling, I call out as William stumbles into our marble kitchen, clearly exhausted from his business dinner last night. The coffee machine hums quietly, filling our $5.2 million Beacon Hill brownstone with the aroma of his favorite Ethiopian roast. The kitchen, with its custom cabinetry and imported Italian marble, was recently featured in Architectural Digest, a spread William eagerly shares with clients and friends as evidence of his exquisite taste and financial success. "I made your breakfast," I say cheerfully, sliding a plate of avocado toast and poached eggs across our kitchen island. He kisses my cheek, reeking of expensive cologne and poorly disguised guilt. The same Tom Ford cologne I noticed in Natasha's latest Instagram post from their accidental encounter at Barney's last Wednesday. "You're too good to me, babe," he murmurs, checking his phone surreptitiously. If only you knew, I think, watching him devour the breakfast I prepared. This same kitchen island where I sat until 2 a.m. last night, finalizing details on a secure video call with Martin Chen, my former colleague from Morgan Stanley. Martin, who now heads their private client wealth management division. Martin, who nearly choked on his whiskey when I showed him what I'd uncovered in William's private trust fund transactions. "Another early meeting?" I ask innocently, observing him check his phone constantly. His lock screen is still a photo of us with our children in Nantucket last summer, but I know his home screen features Natasha. I've seen it reflected in his car window during dinner dates when he thinks I'm absorbed in the wine list. "Yeah, the Henderson portfolio is killing me," he says, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair, distracted. "Their estate planning is a nightmare. The Henderson portfolio. That doesn't exist. I've already confirmed the Hendersons moved their wealth management to Goldman Sachs 8 months ago. Another lie in William's increasingly complex web of deception. Don't work too hard, I say, squeezing his shoulder affectionately. He doesn't notice me taking a photo of his phone screen in the reflection of our KitchenAid mixer's chrome surface, capturing Natasha's message about their lunch plans at the Alam new sushi restaurant downtown. After William leaves, I transform our home office into my command center. The framed photos of our wedding at the Boston Public Library disappear into drawers, replaced by printouts of bank statements, trust fund documents, property records, and transfer receipts. My friend Stephanie, a trust fund attorney I've known since our days at Wellesley, sits cross-legged on my custom restoration hardware rug, surrounded by papers. Jesus Christ, she mutters, holding up a document. Did he really think he could hide these trust fund withdrawals behind a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands? I laugh, but there's no humor in it. He registered it under his childhood horse's name, Gallant Knight, the one that died 15 years ago. Stephanie shakes her head, adding the paper to our growing evidence pile. Men like William always think they're the smartest person in the room. That's because they never bother looking around, I reply, pulling up another document on my laptop. Look at this. Every time he meets Natasha, he files it as a trust fund management expense. 5-star hotels with a woman who's supposedly advising him on brand strategy, despite not knowing the difference between equity and assets. My phone buzzes with a group text from our friend Caroline about her upcoming charity gala at the Museum of Fine Arts. William responds immediately with another excuse. Natasha, I notice, has already marked herself unavailable on the event's planning committee list. They're getting careless, I observe, adding another screenshot to my collection. Have you talked to Judge Patterson yet? Stephanie asks, referring to our friend who oversees trust fund disputes in Suffolk County. I nod, pulling up an encrypted email chain. She's ready. The moment we file on Monday, she'll schedule an emergency hearing about suspicious trust fund activities. The same hearing that will reveal Natasha's company has been receiving trust fund payments for consulting since before she even met William. My phone lights up with William's face, his daily check-in call. I answer with practiced cheerfulness, listening to him lie about his lunch meeting while I stare at their restaurant reservation confirmation in my email, the same email account he set up for me, thinking I'd only use it for online shopping and correspondence with the children's schools. Miss you too, honey, I say, watching Stephanie roll her eyes dramatically. "Don't forget we have dinner with your parents tonight," he pauses, and I can practically hear him texting Natasha to reschedule. "Of course, babe. Wouldn't miss it." After hanging up, I turn to Stephanie with a knowing smile. "He'll cancel in about 3 hours. Emergency client meeting." "How can you be so sure?" I pull up Natasha's Instagram story from this morning, a cryptic post about a special sunset surprise at the new rooftop bar at the Liberty Hotel. Because I know their routine better than they do. The rest of the day unfolds like a carefully choreographed ballet. I attend my regular board meeting at the Children's Hospital Foundation, where I serve as a trustee, make appearances at my usual lunch spots, even get my nails done at the salon where William's sister frequents. Everything normal. Everything routine. No one would suspect that in my Bottega Veneta briefcase, I'm carrying documents that will dismantle a decade of William's careful deceptions. Right on schedule, at 4:38 p.m., William texts, "Baby, I'm so sorry. Might have to rain check." Dinner with my parents. Emergency meeting with the trust fund advisors. I respond with just the right amount of disappointment and understanding, watching through my phone's banking alerts as he makes a dinner reservation at Moiri, his and Natasha's favorite spot, for their business strategy sessions. The trust fund advisors haven't scheduled any meetings, I tell Stephanie dryly. I would know. I'm the one who approves their calendar. "Look what just came in," Stephanie says, holding up her phone. Natasha's posted a photo of champagne glasses at sunset, the Liberty Hotel's distinctive Beacon Hill view unmistakable in the background. "Perfect," I say, adding the screenshot to our collection. That receipt will match beautifully with the emergency business dinner he's about to charge to the trust fund account. As evening falls, I sit in our meticulously decorated living room, surrounded by evidence of William's double life and my own careful documentation. Every lie, every secret meeting, every hidden trust fund withdrawal, all of it meticulously, cataloged and cross-referenced. My phone buzzes with another Instagram notification. Natasha wearing a new Dior dress that costs more than her supposed monthly consulting fee, captioned with a single diamond emoji. I save it to the folder marked Monday and pour myself a glass of Chateau Margaux from the collection William thinks only he has access to in our temperature-controlled wine cellar. "Let them have their romantic evening," I murmur, scanning through the latest trust fund report Sebastian sent over. "Let them think they're the clever ones, playing their little game of hide-and-seek with the naive wife. I've spent months building this facade of ignorance, and in less than 36 hours, I'll have the pleasure of watching it shatter, along with everything else they thought they could take from me." The forensic accountants finished their preliminary review late Saturday night. Stephanie calls from her office, her voice tight with disbelief. "You're not going to believe what they found in the offshore accounts." I join her via secure video call, my heels clicking against our Italian marble floors as I move to my private study, the one room William never enters because he finds it too feminine with its pale blue walls and antique writing desk. On her laptop screen, a complex web of transactions unfolds, a masterpiece of financial deceit that would be almost impressive if it wasn't so staggeringly reckless. He's been transferring trust fund money through 4 different shell companies, Stephanie explains, highlighting various transactions on the shared screen. All registered under variations of his childhood horse's name: Gallant Knight Enterprises, GK Holdings, Knight Capital, and Gallant Investments. Then he funnels it through Natasha's fake consulting firm and into private accounts in the Cayman Islands and Singapore. I lean closer to my monitor, a cold smile playing at my lips. "Show me the dates of the first transfers." Stephanie pulls up a timeline, and my smile widens. Just as I thought. He started moving money the day after his father made me trustee. He never even bothered to check who had final approval power. My phone chimes with a message from Eleanor Sullivan, William's mother. "Darling, are you and William still coming for dinner? I've had Marguerite prepare his favorite beef Wellington. Poor Eleanor Sullivan, still believing her son is the same responsible young man who followed his father's footsteps into wealth management, still trusting that her grandson's future is being carefully secured by her son's financial acumen. Wait, until she discovers how her precious boy has been treating her family's sixth-generation fortune. What about the trust fund bylaws? Stephanie asks, pulling up another document. The ones about moral conduct and financial responsibility? Article 8, Section 4. I quote from memory. Any trustee or beneficiary found to be engaging in actions that endanger or diminish the family's financial legacy can be immediately suspended from access pending full investigation. Stephanie's eyes gleam as she adds, and with Natasha's social media trail, every post, every photo, every location check-in, all matching perfectly with trust fund withdrawals and consulting payments, I confirm, pulling up a carefully curated folder on my laptop. They've documented their own misconduct better than we ever could. My phone lights up with another check-in from William. Just wrapped the emergency meeting, baby. Might be a late one, so much paperwork to review. I text back, don't work too hard, darling. Make sure you eat something. Through the window, I can see the lights of the Liberty Hotel, knowing they're up there right now, celebrating what they think is their perfect deception. William probably congratulating himself on how skillfully he's managed to hide his withdrawals from the trust fund. Natasha no doubt already planning how to spend more of the Sullivan family money. Judge Patterson. Just confirmed, Stephanie says, checking her phone. She's cleared her Monday morning calendar. The moment we file, she'll expedite the hearing. I nod, walking to our floor-to-ceiling windows. The Boston skyline sparkles back at me, a constellation of lights that seems to mirror the intricate web of evidence we've woven. Lauren, Stephanie's voice turned serious. Are you absolutely sure about the timing? We could wait until after his parents' anniversary party next week. His whole family will be there. I turn back to her, thinking of the invitation I'd helped Eleanor design, the lavish celebration planned at the Fairmont Copley Plaza, where William intends to announce his new role as primary manager of the family's investments. The same party, where he and Natasha plan to accidentally meet, beginning their public story with a meet-cute his mother would approve of. The timing, I say, picking up another stack of documents, is exactly right. Let him stand in front of his entire family, ready to make his big announcement. Stephanie raises an eyebrow. Right before Judge Patterson's bailiff serves him with the trust fund suspension papers? Poetic, isn't it? My phone buzzes again, a text from Natasha to our charity committee group. So sorry to miss tomorrow's meeting, everyone. Last-minute client emergency. The same meeting where we're supposed to discuss the annual Sullivan Family Foundation Gala. I add the screenshot to our evidence file, then pull up the trust fund's latest statement. The numbers that William thinks only he understands glow on my screen. If he'd ever bothered to really look, he'd have noticed that every transaction, every transfer, every withdrawal has required dual authentication for the past 4 years. One code from him, one from the trustee. Me. I've watched every dollar he's tried to hide, every account he's attempted to obscure, every lie he's built his house of cards upon, all while playing the role he assigned me, the beautiful, naive wife who couldn't possibly understand the complexities of wealth management. His father's office just confirmed, Stephanie checks another message. Board meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. Monday. William is supposed to present the new family investment strategy. I smile, remembering the fabricated reports he's been working on, the fake projections he's created to hide his mismanagement of the trust. Perfect. That gives Judge Patterson's team plenty of time to arrive by 9:30. My phone lights up one final time for the night. William sending a photo of paperwork scattered across what appears to be his office desk. Actually, the Liberty Hotel's distinctive stationery visible in the corner. Still grinding, baby. Don't wait up. I text back a single heart emoji, then turn to Stephanie. Shall we finish preparing his wake-up call? For the next few hours, we meticulously review every document, every piece of evidence, every single detail of what's about to unfold. By the time Stephanie leaves, the sun is starting to rise over the Boston Harbor, painting our living room in shades of gold that match the embossed letterhead of the Sullivan Family Trust. I hear William's key in the door around 6:15 a.m. He tries to be quiet, but his Italian loafers still click against the marble floors of our entryway. I'm already in the kitchen, perfectly dressed, makeup flawless, starting the coffee maker. "You're up early," he says, trying to hide his surprise. And the faint trace of Natasha's signature Jo Malone perfume on his collar. "Thought you could use some breakfast after your late night," I smile, sliding him a cup of coffee. "Must have been some important trust fund business." "You know how it is," he waves vaguely, not meeting my eyes. "Sometimes these things can't wait." "Oh, darling," I think, watching him check his phone under the table, no doubt messaging Natasha about their close call. "You have no idea how right you are. Just a few more hours until Monday morning, when they learn exactly what happens when you mistake silence for ignorance and underestimate the woman you thought you'd fooled." The rest of Sunday passes in a blur of final preparations. William spends most of the day in his home office, finalizing his presentation for tomorrow's board meeting, unaware that I've installed monitoring software that captures every spreadsheet, every PowerPoint slide, every fabricated projection he creates. "This will be a game changer for the family," he tells me over a quick dinner, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Dad's finally going to see that I've taken his legacy to the next level." I smile encouragingly, raising my wine glass. In a toast, "To your success tomorrow." If he notices the cold gleam in my eyes, he doesn't show it. That night, as William sleeps soundly beside me, exhausted from maintaining his double life, I lay awake, mentally rehearsing every step of tomorrow's carefully orchestrated unveiling. The trust fund audit team standing by. Judge Patterson's courtroom prepared. The family boardroom where William will make his ill-fated presentation. The financial institutions ready to freeze accounts. The legal documents prepared to transfer control. Tomorrow, William Sullivan will learn that his greatest mistake wasn't embezzling from his family's trust fund. It wasn't even the affair with Natasha. It was assuming that the woman beside him was exactly what he wanted her to be: beautiful, compliant, and financially illiterate. By this time tomorrow, that illusion, along with his access to the Sullivan family fortune, will be shattered beyond repair. Monday morning dawns clear and crisp, the kind of perfect May day that usually has tourists flooding Boston Common. I wake at precisely 5:45 a.m., though I've barely slept. William's side of our Egyptian cotton sheets is already empty. He'd left early, eager to prepare for his big presentation to the family board. If he only knew what else was being prepared. For him, I dress with surgical precision, a charcoal Armani suit, pearl earrings that were his grandmother's, and the Louboutin heels William bought me after a particularly extravagant weekend with Natasha in Miami. Every detail matters today. Every piece tells a story. "Morning, beautiful." William's voice is unusually chipper when he calls at 7:30 a.m. "Just wanted to check you're coming to the board meeting, right? Thought you might want to see your husband's big moment." "Wouldn't miss it for the world, darling," I reply, watching Rebecca send confirmation that Judge Patterson has arrived at her chambers. "Someone should be there to witness everything you deserve." He chuckles, missing my tone completely. "That's my girl. See you at 9. I end the call and pull up the security feed from the Sullivan Group's offices. Amazing what being a trustee grants you access to. William is already there, practicing his presentation in the boardroom mirror, adjusting his Hermes tie with nervous fingers. On another screen, I watch Natasha enter her favorite coffee shop, no doubt planning to celebrate with William after his triumph. "Everything's in position," Stephanie texts. She's already at the courthouse with Rebecca, waiting for the perfect moment. Judge Patterson is reviewing the final documents now. I check my watch. 8:15 a.m. Time to set the wheels in motion. My first stop is the Sullivan Group's private bank, where I've been a familiar face since helping reorganize their family estate 4 years ago. William never bothered to attend these meetings. Boring paperwork, he'd called it. His loss. Mrs. Sullivan, Thomas, the private banking director, greets me warmly. Everything is prepared as requested. I smile, taking a seat in his plush office. And the timing? He slides a document across his mahogany desk. The moment you send the signal, every account William has access to will be flagged for review. The trust fund auditors are standing by. Perfect. I sign where indicated, my Mont Blanc pen, another of William's guilt gifts, flowing smoothly across the paper. And his private accounts? The ones he thought were hidden? Thomas allows himself a small smile. Already under surveillance. The moment the trust fund suspension hits, those freeze too. My phone buzzes with a message from Eleanor Sullivan, William's mother. Darling, I'm so proud of William today, and so grateful to have you as part of our family. You've been such a blessing. If she only knew how much of a blessing I was about to be, saving her family's fortune from her own son's greed. At 8:45 a.m., I enter the Sullivan Group's gleaming office tower, nodding to security guards who know me as the trustee's wife, not realizing I'm actually their superior. The elevator rides smoothly to the 40th floor, where the family's legacy has been managed for 4 generations. William is waiting by the boardroom, practically bouncing with nervous energy. You made it? He kisses my cheek, and I catch a whiff of Natasha's perfume still lingering on his collar. I've got such a good feeling about today. Oh, darling, I murmur, straightening his tie. You have no idea how memorable today is going to be. The boardroom fills quickly with family members and executives. William's father, Edward Sullivan, takes his place at the head of the table, looking every bit the family patriarch in his bespoke suit. If only his son had inherited his integrity along with his features. Before we begin, Edward announces, I want to thank everyone for being here for this momentous occasion. As you know, we're here to discuss the future of the Sullivan Family Trust, and my son William has prepared a comprehensive presentation on our new investment strategy. William stands, straightening his papers with practiced confidence. His PowerPoint presentation glows on the screen behind him, slides full of fake projections and manipulated numbers that took him weeks to fabricate. Good morning, everyone. He begins, flashing his 1,000-watt smile. Today marks a new chapter in the Sullivan legacy. 59 a.m. My phone vibrates silently in my lap. Stephanie's message is simple. Ready. 9 a.m. William clicks to his first slide, pointing out fabricated growth projections with practiced charm. As you can see, our trust fund's performance under my guidance has been exceptional. 1 a.m., I send a single text. Now, the effect is immediate but subtle at first. William's phone buzzes in his pocket, probably a notification from his banking app. He ignores it, continuing his presentation. It buzzes again, and again, and again. 03 a.m. The boardroom door opens silently. Judge Patterson's bailiff enters, nodding to me imperceptibly. Behind him, 2 federal auditors take their places by the door. And if you'll look at these returns, William continues, though his phone is now buzzing constantly. He's starting to look distracted, shifting uncomfortably. You'll see that our innovative approach to his voice trails off as he notices his father checking his own phone, frowning deeply. Other board members are doing the same, their expressions shifting from polite attention to confused concern. 5 a.m. The bailiff steps forward, official documents in hand. Mr. William Sullivan? William turns, annoyed at the interruption of his big moment. I'm in the middle of something here. You are hereby served with an emergency injunction regarding the Sullivan Family Trust, the bailiff announces clearly, his voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent boardroom. By order of Judge Patterson, you are suspended from all access to trust fund accounts and assets pending investigation into serious allegations of misappropriation and fraud. The color drains from William's face as he takes the papers with trembling hands. His phone is still buzzing, probably notifications of his accounts being frozen one by one. There must be some mistake, he stammers, looking around the room desperately. His eyes land on me, seeking support, reassurance, the naive trust he's come to expect. Instead, he finds me calmly opening my laptop, pulling up the folders marked Evidence. No mistake, darling, I say softly, turning the screen so the entire board can see. Would you like to explain these transactions to your family yourself, or shall I? The first image appears on the boardroom's main screen, replacing his fabricated presentation, a detailed spreadsheet of every dollar he's stolen, every lie he's told, every trust he's broken. Behind him, Edward Sullivan stands slowly, his face a mask of shock and growing fury. William, his father's voice is deadly quiet. What is this? Before he can answer, his phone buzzes one final time. He looks at it reflexively, and I know exactly what he's seeing. A notification that his access to all Sullivan family accounts has been suspended. Perhaps, I suggest, standing smoothly, we should discuss the real state of the family trust, starting with these unusual payments to a certain consulting firm. William slumps into his chair as I take control of the presentation remote. Behind him, the federal auditors begin setting up their equipment. Through the boardroom's glass walls, I can see Stephanie and Rebecca arriving with boxes of additional evidence. The day of reckoning has only just begun. Let's start with this particular transaction, I say, clicking to the next slide. The boardroom screen fills with a detailed breakdown of a $175,000 transfer from the trust fund to Natasha's consulting firm made on February 12th, exactly one day after Natasha's company was registered. Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? I observe. William's hands grip the armrests of his chair, knuckles white. Behind him, Edward Sullivan has switched from shock to cold fury, his jaw clenched as he watches his son's deceptions laid bare. Of course, I continue, clicking through to the next slide. That was just the beginning. Shall we discuss the offshore accounts registered under your childhood horse's name? Or perhaps the series of business development charges at the Liberty Hotel that coincidentally match perfectly with these Instagram posts? The screen fills with a carefully curated collection. Natasha's social media posts, side by side with trust fund expenditures, times and dates perfectly aligned, each champagne toast, each surprise gift, each luxury weekend mathematically matched, with a suspicious withdrawal. This is ridiculous, William finally manages, his voice cracking. These are legitimate business expenses. Dad, I can explain. Explain what exactly? I interrupt smoothly, pulling up another document. How you started embezzling from the trust fund the day after your father made me trustee? Or should we discuss how you've been using family money to fund your affair while planning to divorce me? A gasp ripples through the boardroom. Eleanor Sullivan, William's mother, presses a hand to her chest, her face pale beneath her perfect makeup. Divorce? She whispers. William, what is she talking about? Oh, you didn't know? I turn to my mother-in-law with practiced sympathy. William and his financial consultant have quite the future planned, booked with trust fund money. Of course. Would you like to see the Santorini reservations, the jewelry receipts, or perhaps the draft divorce papers his lawyer drew up last week? William lunges for his phone, probably to warn Natasha, but it's already too late. Through the boardroom's glass walls, we can see her being escorted into the building by security, her designer handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. Perfect timing, I murmur, checking my watch. The SEC? William's voice rises an octave. What are you… Did you really think? I cut in, my voice carrying clearly across the stunned boardroom, that you could embezzle millions from a family trust fund without consequences? That no one would notice your creative accounting? Your father made me trustee for a reason, darling. And unlike you, I actually read the financial reports. The federal auditors have set up their equipment now, efficiently downloading data from the company's servers. Rebecca stands at the ready with another stack of documents, the complete forensic accounting of every dollar William has stolen. Mrs. Sullivan, one of the auditors calls out, we've confirmed the initial findings. The pattern of misappropriation is consistent with your report. William's head snaps up. Your report? Who do you think has been documenting your theft all these months? I ask quietly. Who do you think has been tracking every lie, every secret meeting, every hidden transaction? The wife you thought was too naive to understand finance? The trophy you believed would never question your business meetings? His phone buzzes again, probably Natasha being brought to the conference room for questioning. Through the glass, I can see her mascara-streaked face as she realizes the magnitude of their situation. I can fix this. William stands abruptly, desperation creeping into his voice. Dad, just let me explain. We can handle this internally. Sit down. Edward Sullivan's voice could freeze hell itself. You've done quite enough. Actually, I interject, pulling up another document, we're just getting started. Would anyone like to see the trust fund's true performance reports? The ones William has been hiding while presenting his creative fiction? The next hour unfolds like a perfectly choreographed dance. With each new revelation, each piece of evidence, each damning document, William shrinks further into his chair. His carefully constructed world of lies crumbles slide by slide, dollar by dollar. The Cayman Islands accounts have been frozen, Stephanie announces from the doorway, and Judge Patterson has approved the emergency audit of all personal assets. William's head snaps up. Personal assets? You can't… Article 8, Section 4 of the Trust Fund Bylaws, I quote smoothly. Any trustee or beneficiary found to be engaging in actions that endanger or diminish the family's financial legacy can be immediately suspended from access to all related assets pending full investigation. I continue with practiced precision. Your father insisted I memorize every clause when he made me trustee. Shame you never bothered to read them yourself. A commotion outside draws everyone's attention. Natasha is being led to a separate room, her face a mask of panic as she realizes the serious nature of her situation. Through the glass, I watch her reach for her phone, probably to call the lawyer she thinks can save her. Don't bother, I call out, loud enough for her to hear through the glass. Your lawyer dropped you 20 minutes ago. Apparently, he has some concerns about being associated with trust fund fraud. William stands again, this time moving toward the door, but the security team shifts smoothly to block his path. This is insane, he shouts. You can't just… Can't what? I ask, my voice deadly quiet. Protect the family's legacy from your greed? Prevent you from stealing more of your parents' trust fund? Or perhaps you're upset that I won't let you drain the accounts to fund your new life with Natasha? I click to the next slide, and William actually flinches. It's a photo from last week. Him and Natasha at Tiffany's, shopping for engagement rings, the trust fund withdrawal for the purchase still pending in the system. Engagement rings? Eleanor Bennett's voice is barely a whisper. While you're still married to Lauren? Speaking of marriage, I continue, pulling up another document. William, darling, why don't you explain to everyone why you've been meeting with divorce attorneys? Or should I share the prenup dissolution papers you had drafted? The boardroom is deadly silent now, every eye fixed on William as he realizes just how completely his plans have imploded. His father stands slowly, every inch the powerful patriarch whose legacy his son has betrayed. Get him out of my sight, Edward orders, his voice trembling with rage. And call the family lawyers. All of them. As security begins to escort William from the boardroom, his phone buzzes one final time. I know exactly what notification he's receiving. His access to the Sullivan family offices has been revoked, his keycard deactivated, his credentials suspended. One more thing, I call out just as he reaches the door. You might want to pack a bag when you get home. The brownstone belongs to the trust fund, and as of 9 minutes ago, you're no longer a permitted resident. William turns, his face a mask of disbelief. Where am I supposed to go? I smile, remembering all the nights I lay awake while he was with Natasha, planning this very moment. Perhaps you could stay at the Liberty Hotel? Oh, wait, your credit cards have all been frozen. Well, I'm sure Natasha would offer her sofa, but... I glance meaningfully at the federal agents leading her to questioning. She might be a bit preoccupied. As William is led away, Eleanor approaches me, tears in her eyes. Lauren, I'm so sorry. We had no idea he was... It's not your fault. I squeeze her hand gently. You raised a good son. He just made very, very bad choices. Stephanie appears at my side with another update. Judge Patterson wants to see you, and the forensic accountants have found 3 more offshore accounts. I nod, gathering my things as the federal agents continue their work. Through the glass walls, I can see William being escorted to the lobby, his world collapsing around him. His phone is probably exploding with notifications, frozen accounts, canceled cards, suspended memberships, revoked access. Mrs. Sullivan, one of the federal agents approaches, will need a statement about the trust fund discrepancies. Of course, I reply, smoothing my skirt as I stand. I believe I have everything you need right here. I pat my briefcase, filled with months of careful documentation, weeks of meticulous planning, and years of quiet observation. William thought he was so clever, playing his games with the family fortune while his trophy wife smiled quietly at his side. He never realized that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear the most. The next few hours unfold like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of consequences. From my temporary office in the Sullivan Group's executive suite, William's former office, ironically, I watch the dominoes continue to fall through multiple screens and live feeds. His attempt to access the Cayman accounts was just denied, Stephanie reports, monitoring the financial alerts. He tried using his backup passwords, the ones he thought nobody knew about. I smile, remembering how easy it was to find those passwords, scribbled in his private notebook, the one he kept in his secret safe behind our bedroom's Monet painting. How many attempts? 5 so far, each one triggering another alert to the financial authorities. My phone buzzes with a notification from our home security system. William has arrived at the brownstone, probably hoping to grab some essentials before the locks are changed. Through the camera feed, I watch him frantically shoving designer suits into his luggage, the same suits I helped him select, each one paid for with trust fund money he'll soon have to account for. Should we tell him about the asset freeze? Stephanie asks, watching the feed over my shoulder. Let him figure it out, I reply, turning my attention to another screen showing the federal investigators interviewing Natasha. Her confident facade has crumbled completely now, mascara streaking down her face as she realizes the full implications of her role in William's scheme. Mrs. Sullivan, Rebecca enters with a fresh stack of documents. The family's private bank, just called. They've completed the initial audit of William's personal accounts. I raise an eyebrow. And? He's been skimming from more than just the trust fund. They found irregular transfers from his grandmother's medical care account, his sister's children's education fund, even the family's charitable foundation. Eleanor, who's been sitting quietly in the corner trying to process the morning's events, lets out a small sob. The children's education fund? His own nieces and nephews? I move to comfort my mother-in-law, the woman who welcomed me into her family with open arms 8 years ago. We've already reversed the transfers, Eleanor. The children's futures are secure. My phone lights up with another notification. William trying to check into the Four Seasons using his black card. I can almost see the color drain from his face as the card is declined. Through various feeds and alerts, I track his increasingly desperate attempts. The Ritz-Carlton declined. The Fairmont declined. The Mandarin Oriental declined. His lawyer just dropped him, Stephanie announces, checking her messages. Apparently, he tried to pay the retainer with one of the frozen accounts. The firm has concerns about being paid with potentially fraudulent funds. A commotion in the hallway draws our attention. Through the glass walls, we see Natasha being escorted out by federal agents, her designer handbag now filled with copies of her sworn statement. The look she shoots toward William's former office could freeze hell itself. She gave them everything, Rebecca confirms, reviewing the preliminary report. Every meeting, every transaction, every promise he made. Turns out self-preservation trumps loyalty when federal charges are on the table. My phone buzzes again, a group text from our social circle about the upcoming charity gala at the Museum of Fine Arts. William's sister Elizabeth has already removed him from the planning committee. His name disappears from the guest list in real time, his social world crumbling as quickly as his financial one. The trust fund audit team just found something interesting, Stephanie calls out, her eyes wide as she reads from her tablet. Remember those business development trips to Switzerland? I turn to her, intrigued. The ones where he claimed to be meeting with private banking clients? He was actually viewing properties, high-end chalets in the Alps, all conveniently far from extradition treaties. They found incomplete purchase agreements on his company laptop. Eleanor's head snaps up. He was planning to run? With your family's money? With all of our money, I confirm gently. But don't worry, he won't get the chance now. As if on cue, my phone shows another alert. William's passport has been flagged. No international travel without court approval. His world is shrinking by the minute, his options disappearing one by one. The family's crisis management team is ready, Rebecca informs us. They've prepared statements for the press, the banking community, and the social registries. I nod, pulling up the draft announcements on my laptop. The careful wording presents the Sullivan family as victims of William's deception while emphasizing their swift action to protect the family legacy. No mention of my role. Exactly as I planned. Lauren, Eleanor speaks up, her voice stronger now. The annual Family Foundation Gala is next week. With William's situation, perhaps you should take over as chair. Before I can respond, my phone buzzes with an urgent message from the Brownstone security team. William is trying to access his home office safe, the one he thinks contains emergency cash and backup credit cards. Don't worry, I assure Eleanor, watching William's frustrated attempts through the security feed. I already emptied that safe last week. Everything of value is secure in the family vault. Stephanie's tablet pings with another update. The forensic team just found his deleted emails. You're not going to believe what he was planning for after the divorce. I turn to the large screen on the wall, now displaying a complex web of William's intended post-divorce financial manipulations. Even I'm impressed by the audacity, if not the intelligence of his schemes. He was going to claim the trust fund violated tax laws, Stephanie explains, highlighting various documents. Threatened to report irregularities to the IRS unless the family paid him a massive settlement. Eleanor gasps. He would blackmail his own family? He would try, I correct her, pulling up another document. But that would have been difficult, considering I've had tax experts reviewing and certifying every trust fund transaction for the past 4 years. My phone lights up with another notification. William's attempt to access his cryptocurrency accounts. Sorry, darling, I murmur too. The screen. Those wallets were transferred to the family's secure digital vault last week, along with everything else you thought you'd hidden so cleverly. Through the office windows, I can see the sun setting over Boston Harbor, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. In the reflection, I catch glimpses of federal agents still combing through files, forensic accountants tracking down every missing dollar, and family lawyers protecting generations of Sullivan wealth from one man's greed. Mrs. Sullivan, a senior federal investigator, approaches. We found evidence of potentially criminal transactions dating back 7 years. We'll need your statement about when you first noticed irregularities. I retrieve a carefully prepared timeline from my briefcase. I believe you'll find everything documented here. Every unauthorized transaction, every transfer that lacked proper approval, every attempt to circumvent trust fund protocols. As the investigators continue their work, I receive one final notification for the day. William, having been denied access to every luxury hotel in Boston, has checked into a modest airport motel, paid for with borrowed cash since his accounts remain frozen. Should we tell him about tomorrow? Stephanie asks, referring to the emergency family council meeting where William will be formally removed from all Sullivan family enterprises. I shake my head, watching his location dot on my phone's map, so far from the privileged world he's always known. Let him sleep tonight thinking he can still fix this. Tomorrow's revelations deserve a fresh audience. Eleanor stands, gathering her composure along with her Hermes bag. Lauren, we can never thank you enough for protecting the family's legacy, I finished gently. Eleanor, when you welcomed me into your family, you made me a Sullivan. I protect what's mine. As the office slowly empties, I remain at my desk, surrounded by evidence of William's betrayal and my own careful preparation. On one screen, I watch him pacing in his motel room, probably trying to figure out how his perfect plan imploded so spectacularly. On another, I see Natasha checking into a flight to her parents' home in Philadelphia, her dreams of becoming Mrs. Sullivan evaporating like morning mist. My phone buzzes one last time, William trying to salvage something from the wreckage of his life. Baby, please. We need to talk. I can explain everything. I smile, thinking of all the nights I lay awake listening to his lies about working late, while I quietly built the case that would bring him down. No need to explain, darling. The federal investigators have all the explanations they need. Then I turn off my phone, gather my things, and prepare to head home to the brownstone that now belongs solely to me. Tomorrow will bring more revelations, more consequences, more dismantling of William's carefully constructed house of cards. But tonight, I'll sleep soundly in our king-sized bed, alone but victorious, while my husband learns what happens when you mistake quiet patience for weakness and underestimate the woman who held the real power all along. Tuesday morning brings the kind of headlines you can't buy with PR spin. Sullivan heir suspended from family trust amid fraud allegations. Scandal rocks Boston elite, trust fund manipulation scheme exposed. Society shocker, trophy wife saved a family fortune. I read them all from the comfort of my home office in the brownstone, sipping the rare Japanese tea William always claimed was too refined for my palate. The irony of enjoying his precious collection while watching his world burn isn't lost on me. The private banking community is in an uproar, Stephanie announces, entering with a fresh stack of financial papers. 3 other prominent families have already requested audits of their own trust funds. Apparently, William's scheme has everyone questioning their own financial managers. His mother's on her way up, Rebecca adds, checking her phone. The doorman just called. I nod, setting down my teacup. Eleanor Sullivan has always been the family's emotional compass, and I know this meeting won't be easy for her. Lauren, Eleanor sweeps in, still elegant despite her obvious distress. The press have you seen the latest? They're calling it the trust fund takedown of the decade. I guide her to the sitting area, noting how her eyes linger on the empty spaces where William's photos once hung. The media will move on to the next scandal soon enough. What matters is protecting the family legacy. The forensic accountants found something else, she says quietly, pulling out a folder. Something worse. I take the documents, though I already know what they'll show. William hadn't just been stealing from the trust fund. He'd been systematically looting his own family's personal accounts, his sister's children's college funds, his grandmother's medical care reserves, even his parents' retirement accounts. We knew he was troubled, but this, Eleanor's voice breaks. His own family? Everything will be restored, I assure her, turning to the recovery plan I'd prepared months ago. Every account has been reconciled, every stolen dollar traced and returned. My phone buzzes with an update from the federal investigation team. They've found William's secret storage unit in Cambridge. Inside, boxes of falsified documents detail years of financial manipulation, all the evidence they need for criminal charges. Mrs. Sullivan, my assistant calls from the doorway. Mr. William is in the lobby, demanding to be let up. He's not taking no for an answer. I pull up the security feed on my laptop. William, disheveled and desperate, arguing with the doorman. His Tom Ford suit, the one he wore to so many client meetings with Natasha, is wrinkled from a night in the airport. Motel. Should I call security? The assistant asks. No need, I reply, pressing a button on my phone. The police are already on their way. Anonymous tip about a person of interest in a federal fraud investigation causing a disturbance. Eleanor flinches, at my words but doesn't object. Even a mother's love has its limits. The Trust Fund Council is meeting in an hour, Stephanie reminds me, checking her calendar. They'll want your statement about assuming emergency control. I nod, gathering my materials. In the background, my screens show multiple scenes unfolding simultaneously. William being escorted from the building by police. Natasha giving another tearful interview, painting herself as another victim of his deception. Federal agents boxing, up evidence from his office. Society columnists speculating about the scandal's impact on upcoming charity gala season. Lauren, Eleanor speaks up suddenly. There's something I need to tell you about why Edward made you trustee 4 years ago. I turn to my mother-in-law, curious. This is one piece of the puzzle I never fully understood. We knew, she says simply, about William's tendencies, the impulsive spending, the risky investments, the constant need for more. Edward saw it happening at the company, watched him taking bigger and bigger risks with other people's money. So you needed someone to protect the family fortune from your own son, I finish quietly. Eleanor nods, tears in her eyes. We interviewed dozens of financial experts, considered professional trustees from all the top firms, but Edward said we needed someone William would underestimate, someone he'd never suspect of watching his every move. The trophy wife he thought he'd chosen for her looks rather than her mind, I add, understanding dawning. When we learned about your background in finance, your experience with private wealth management, Eleanor manages a small smile. Well, let's just say Edward has always had an eye for talent. My phone buzzes again, more updates flooding in. William's membership at the Somerset Club revoked, his position on the hospital board suspended, his private banking privileges at multiple institutions terminated, his invitation to next month's charity gala rescinded. His lawyer sent over a proposal, Stephanie mentions, holding up another document. He's offering to sign a full confession in exchange for a monthly allowance from the trust fund. I almost laugh at the audacity. Let me guess, he still thinks he has something to negotiate with? He's claiming he has evidence of historical trust fund irregularities, says he'll go public if we don't meet his demands. This time I do laugh, pulling up a particular file on my laptop. You mean these documents? I turn the screen to show decades of pristine trust fund records, each transaction verified, each decision documented, the ones I've had independent auditors reviewing and certifying for the past 4 years. Through the window, I watch as William is driven away in a police car, his final attempt at blackmail failing as spectacularly as his other schemes. On my other screens, the Sullivan family's financial empire continues operating smoothly, the transition of power already complete. The family council is ready, my assistant announces. They're waiting in the main boardroom. I gather my things, preparing to officially accept control of the Sullivan family's financial future. Eleanor stands with me, straightening her shoulders with renewed strength. "Lauren," she says softly, "thank you. Not just for stopping him, but for saving him from himself. If he'd continued much longer, the damage would have been irreparable," I finish. "I know. That's why I had to act now." As we head to the boardroom, my phone shows one final notification. William checking into an even cheaper motel, this time in Rhode Island. How far the mighty have fallen. "Mrs. Sullivan?" Rebecca calls out. "Judge Patterson's office just confirmed. The emergency hearing is set for tomorrow morning. They'll want your full testimony about the trust fund manipulation." I nod, already prepared. My evidence is organized, my statement drafted, my strategy in place. Tomorrow, William will learn the full extent of his mistakes, not just the financial theft, but the fatal error of underestimating the woman he married. "One last thing," Stephanie adds as we approach the boardroom. "The family's PR team wants to know how to handle the press. They're calling you everything from financial avenger to trust fund guardian." "Tell them no comments," I reply, stepping into the elevator. The numbers speak for themselves. As we ascend to the boardroom, I think about the day William first brought me home to meet his family, how he introduced me as his beautiful art history graduate, emphasizing my looks while dismissing my mind, how he never bothered to read the trust fund documents, how he never questioned why his father chose his new daughter-in-law as trustee. His last text message still sits unanswered. On my phone, "Please, baby, just tell me what you want. I'll do anything." Too late, William. Too late by exactly 4 years, 3 months, and 12 days. The time it took me to document every lie, trace every theft, and prepare for this moment of perfect justice. The boardroom doors open, revealing the assembled Sullivan family council. Time to show them exactly why Edward chose me to protect their legacy, and why William's biggest mistake wasn't stealing from the trust fund, but underestimating the woman who controlled it all along. The Sullivan family boardroom is a study in old money elegance, dark walnut paneling, oil paintings of stern-faced ancestors, and a table long enough to seat 20. Today, 12 family members wait in hushed anticipation. Edward sits at the head, his face impassive but his eyes revealing the pain of a father betrayed. Williams. Sister Catherine clutches her husband's hand, her expression a mix of shock and rage. Understandable given that William had been pilfering from her children's education funds. "Lauren." Edward rises as I enter, extending his hand formally. "The council is ready to hear your assessment and recommendations." I place my materials on the table, feeling the weight of generations watching me through the ancestral portraits that line the walls. "Thank you for convening on such short notice. I know this is difficult for everyone." Taking my seat at what would have been William's place at the table, I open my presentation folder. I'll begin with a comprehensive overview of the trust fund's current status, followed by immediate protective measures already taken, and conclude with my recommendations for restructuring to prevent anything like this from happening again. For the next 30 minutes, I walk the family through William's betrayal with clinical precision, laying out the facts without embellishment. The quiet gasps and occasional muttered curses tell me they understand the magnitude of what their golden boy has done. In summary, I conclude, bringing up the final slide, William has diverted approximately $4.7 million from various family accounts over the past 7 years, with an acceleration in the past 18 months coinciding with his relationship with Natasha Prentice. Edward's knuckles whiten as he grips the armrests of his chair. "And the recovery plan?" "Already implemented," I respond, turning to the next document. "As of this morning, we've secured or frozen all compromised accounts. The federal banking investigators have traced 93% of the missing funds, and we expect full recovery of the remaining 7% once they complete their analysis of the offshore accounts. Catherine leans forward, her voice tight with controlled fury. And what about prosecution? He stole from his own nephews and nieces, for God's sake. That decision rests with the family, I say carefully. The evidence has been prepared for either outcome. If you choose to pursue criminal charges, the documentation is ready. If you prefer to handle this privately, we've drafted a binding financial restitution agreement that would require William to repay everything, plus penalties, while remaining under strict financial guardianship. Edward exchanges glances with his wife, a silent conversation passing between them. Eleanor's slight nod is almost imperceptible, but I catch it. The Sullivan family has always valued discretion, Edward begins slowly. But we value justice more. William didn't just steal money, he betrayed trust. That cannot go unpunished or hidden away like some shameful secret. I agree, Catherine adds firmly. Our children need to see that actions have consequences, even, especially, when those actions come from family members. Other council members murmur their agreement, and I can feel the room unified in a way it probably hasn't been in years. Nothing brings a family together quite like shared betrayal. Very well, I acknowledge, pulling out a separate folder. These are the formal criminal complaint documents, already prepared for your signatures. Once filed, the investigation will move from civil to criminal jurisdiction. As I pass the documents around, Eleanor speaks for the first time since entering the boardroom. Lauren, the council has another matter to discuss with you. I meet her eyes, seeing something beyond the pain, a determination, perhaps even a hint of pride. Yes? Edward clears his throat. In light of recent events, we need to appoint a new chief financial officer for the Sullivan Group, as well as a permanent trustee for the family funds. The council has voted unanimously to offer both positions to you. Despite my careful preparation for every contingency, this catches me by surprise. I'm honored by your confidence, but you've already proven yourself more capable than anyone else we could consider, Catherine interjects. You protected our legacy when our own flesh and blood tried to destroy it. Who better to safeguard it going forward? My mind races through the implications. This would mean stepping fully into a role I've been quietly performing from the shadows, taking public responsibility for the Sullivan fortune in a way William always craved but never deserved. I'll need time to consider, I reply carefully. This would represent a significant change from my current arrangements. Edward nods understanding. Of course, but know that the offer stands, regardless of your relationship with William going forward. The subtext is clear. Divorce or reconciliation, my place in the Sullivan family finances is secure. It's an extraordinary vote of confidence, one that William would be incandescent with rage to witness. As the meeting continues, we address the practical matters, changing signatures on accounts, updating legal authorizations, preparing statements for key business partners. Through it all, I feel a sense of grim satisfaction, not just at William's downfall, but at the vindication of my own capabilities. My phone vibrates silently with an incoming text. Glancing down discreetly, I see it's from William. They're charging me? This has gone too far, Lauren. You need to stop this now. I slip the phone back into my pocket without responding. William still doesn't get it. He still thinks this is some negotiating tactic, some leverage play that he can charm or bully his way out of. He doesn't understand that the game ended the moment I signed those papers yesterday, that everything happening now is simply the inevitable conclusion to his years of deception. There's one final matter, Edward says as we near the end of the meeting. William's personal effects at the company offices. Lauren, as his wife, would you prefer to handle that, or should we assign someone else? I'll take care of it, I reply without hesitation. There might be additional evidence in his office that the investigators missed, and I want to ensure nothing is overlooked. As the meeting concludes, Family members approach me individually, offering combinations of gratitude and awkward condolences. Catherine hugs me tightly, whispering, "You're twice the Sullivan he ever was," before pulling away with tears in her eyes. Eleanor is the last to leave, lingering after Edward has gone ahead to speak with the lawyers. She takes my hands in hers. Her wedding ring, a Sullivan family heirloom dating back 5 generations, glinting in the afternoon light. "When William brought you home that first time," she says softly, "Edward told me that night, that young woman has steel in her spine that our son lacks. He saw something in you that William was too blind to recognize." "Thank you for trusting me," I reply, genuinely moved by her words. "We didn't just trust you with our money, dear." Eleanor squeezes my hands gently. "We trusted you with our legacy, and you've proven worthy of both." As she walks away, I remain alone in the boardroom, surrounded by portraits of Sullivan patriarchs dating back to the 1860s, men who built railroads and shipping empires, who weathered financial panics and world wars, who passed down their fortune through careful stewardship and strategic marriages. None of them could have imagined that in 2025, it would be a woman, an outsider by blood, who saved their legacy from one of their own descendants. I wonder what they would think of me, standing here in what should have been William's moment of triumph, holding the financial future of their dynasty in my hands. My phone buzzes again. Another message from William. "They're keeping me overnight." "Please, Lauren, this is insane. Just tell them it was all a misunderstanding," I finally respond, typing out a single line. "You misunderstood who you were stealing from. That's all." Then I gather my materials and prepare to visit William's office for the final cleanup. My day is far from over, but the hardest part is done. The Sullivan family knows the truth. William faces the consequences of his actions, and I've stepped out of the shadows into my rightful place. Just as Edward Sullivan planned 4 years ago when he made me trustee, though perhaps with consequences more severe than even he anticipated. William's corner office showcases everything about him that I've come to despise, ostentatious without, substance, impressive at first glance but hollow underneath. The mahogany desk, larger than necessary, positioned to intimidate anyone who enters. The wall of credentials, many purchased rather than earned. The shelves lined with financial books, most with uncracked spines kept for show rather than reference. I stand in the doorway for a moment, taking it all in. This space, like our marriage, was built on carefully constructed illusions. Now, both lie in ruins. "Do you want me to have building services pack everything?" Rebecca asks, hovering behind me. "No," I reply, pulling on a pair of latex gloves that match my navy suit. "I'll handle it personally. Some things shouldn't be delegated." As Rebecca leaves, closing the door behind her, I move methodically through the space that William considered his kingdom. The desk drawers reveal exactly what I expected. More evidence of deception, including a burner phone I hadn't known about, still containing messages to Natasha that make me simultaneously nauseous and grateful for my decision to end this charade. "Can you leave her?" Natasha had texted 3 weeks ago. "I'm tired of being your secret." "Soon," William had replied. "The trust fund transfer is almost complete. Another month and we'll have everything we need." I photograph each message, forwarding them to Rebecca for the growing evidence file. The timestamp on that particular exchange matches perfectly with William's largest attempted withdrawal from the Children's Education Fund. Money he'd promised his mistress would finance their new life together. Behind the ostentatious self-help books on his shelves, the millionaire mindset. Power investing, financial dominance. I find a hidden compartment containing 3 passports, one in William's legal name, 2 under aliases, and stacks of cash in various currencies. Typical. Even his escape plan lacked imagination. I'm photographing these new discoveries when my phone buzzes with a notification from the county courthouse. William's bail hearing has been scheduled for tomorrow morning. The family's decision to pursue criminal charges is moving forward with surprising speed. "Mrs. Sullivan?" A gentle knock accompanies the security director's voice. "We need your authorization to clear Mr. Sullivan's personal devices from the company network." I approve the request, then watch on my tablet as William's digital presence is systematically erased from the Sullivan Group systems, his email archiving to a secure server for evidence, his access credentials deactivated, his profile removed from the company directory. It takes less than 10 minutes to erase 7 years of his professional identity. The ease with which he's removed feels appropriate. William always valued appearance over substance, so it's fitting that his digital presence, like his character, proves so easily erasable. As I continue my inventory, I discover a leather-bound notebook hidden in a false bottom of his desk drawer. Inside, detailed notes about his family members, their weaknesses, their pressure points, their financial vulnerabilities, all cataloged with clinical precision. Next to each name, amounts and blackmail strategies, including which family secrets he could exploit if they ever challenged his authority. Even Eleanor, his own mother, has an entry. Mother, sentimentalist, leverage, father's affair with secretary in 2014, will never risk public scandal. My stomach turns as I realize the depth of William's planned betrayal. This wasn't just financial theft. He'd been preparing psychological warfare against his entire family, ready to deploy their deepest secrets if they ever discovered his embezzlement. I photograph every page, my hands shaking not with sorrow, but with cold fury. This is no longer about protecting assets. It's about protecting people who loved and trusted him from a predator in their midst. My phone buzzes with a call from Edward Sullivan. "Lauren," his voice sounds tired, decades older than this morning. "The district attorney wants a meeting. Apparently, what William's done may extend beyond merely stealing from the family." I think of the notebook in my hands. I'm afraid that's true. I've just found evidence that suggests this was only the beginning. "What do you mean?" "He had plans, Edward. Detailed strategies to blackmail each family member if anyone questioned him. He's been collecting leverage on all of you for years." The silence on the other end speaks volumes. When Edward finally responds, his voice has hardened to steel. "Bring everything you find to the DA. No more family protection. No more concerns about the Sullivan name. If my son has become this, then he deserves whatever consequences follow." After ending the call, I continue my search with renewed purpose. In a hidden compartment behind one of his pretentious awards, I discover USB drives containing what appears to be backup copies of the family's most sensitive financial documents, information that could be disastrous in the wrong hands. I'm boxing. These discoveries when Stephanie texts with an update that makes me freeze. William's been granted a supervised release to collect personal items from the brownstone tomorrow morning. Court mandated. Police escort, but heads up. The thought of him in our home, even with supervision, sends a chill through me. Not from fear, but from determination. I need to complete my own inventory before he attempts to retrieve whatever he believes might help his case. I finish processing William's office by late afternoon. 3 boxes of evidence for the investigators, 1 box of personal items that will be held in storage, and a mountain of digital data copied from his various hidden devices. His carefully constructed facade has yielded a treasure trove of evidence that will make any defense attorney despair. As I prepare to leave, Edward's executive assistant stops me at the door. "Mrs. Sullivan, the building security team would like to know if they should maintain Mr. Sullivan's biometric access in the system." I almost laugh at the absurdity of the question. "Remove everything. Fingerprints, retinal scans, voice authorization, all of it. William Sullivan no longer exists in this building." The drive home feels surreal. Boston traffic moves around me in its usual chaos. People going about their normal Tuesday routines. unaware that my world has completely transformed in the span of 48 hours. The brownstone looms ahead, once a showpiece of our supposed perfect marriage, now just another asset to be divided. I know William won't give up easily. Men like him never do. His supervised visit tomorrow isn't about collecting cufflinks or family photos. It's about retrieving anything that might help his case or hurt mine. Which means I have exactly 14 hours to ensure there's nothing left for him to find. As I enter our home, my home now, I'm struck by how different it feels. The spaces William dominated now seem hollow, waiting to be reclaimed. His study, his dressing room, his side of the master bathroom, all territories to be swept for evidence and then purged of his presence. I begin in his study, methodically checking every hiding place I've identified over the years. The loose floorboard beneath the Aubusson rug, the hollow section of his bookshelf behind The Art of the Deal, the small wall safe concealed behind his Harvard diploma. The combination, predictably, is his birthday. Each hiding place yields new evidence of William's deception, offshore account numbers, correspondence with dubious financial contacts, and most damning of all, a draft letter to his lawyer outlining his plans to divorce me once he'd secured adequate resources from the family trust. Client seeks expedited dissolution with minimal settlement to current spouse, the letter reads. Priority is protecting newly acquired assets from discovery during proceedings. I forward everything to Rebecca and Stephanie, building our case stronger with each discovery. William truly believed I would never find these things, that his trophy wife wouldn't think to look beneath floorboards or behind books. His arrogance has made my job remarkably easy. My phone buzzes with an update from the security company. They've completed changing all the locks and security codes as I requested. William's biometric access has been deleted from the system. Tomorrow, when he arrives with his police escort, he'll need to be admitted like any other visitor, stripped of the ownership and authority he once took for granted. In the master bedroom, I methodically empty William's closet, checking each suit pocket, each hidden compartment in his custom cabinetry. Behind a row of bespoke shoes, I find a small fireproof box containing what appears to be his emergency exit strategy: $50,000 in cash, a non-extradition country passport I hadn't discovered yet, and a handwritten list titled Clean Start with Natasha's name at the top. I can almost admire the thoroughness of his planning, even as I dismantle it piece by piece. William always did have an eye for detail, just not enough wisdom to realize he wasn't the smartest person in every room. By midnight, I've completed my inventory of the entire house. Every hidden document photographed, every secret cache emptied, every trace of William's double life documented for tomorrow's meeting with the district attorney. When he arrives for his supervised visit, he'll find nothing but empty drawers and blank spaces where his secrets once lived. I stand in my bedroom, suddenly exhausted by the emotional and physical toll of the past 2 days. On my nightstand, a framed photo from our wedding day catches my eye. William looks directly at the camera, his practiced smile confident and charming. I'm looking at him with what appears to be adoration, but what I now recognize as calculated assessment. Even then, on that first day, I think some part of me knew this moment would come. That sooner or later, William Sullivan would reveal his true nature, and I would need to be prepared. I place the photo face down in a drawer. Tomorrow brings a new chapter, one where William finally realizes the magnitude of his miscalculation in choosing me as both his wife and his victim. Wednesday morning arrives with a crystalline clarity that seems almost inappropriate for the drama unfolding in my life. I dress with particular care: a steel gray Armani suit, subtle pearl earrings, and minimal makeup. Nothing flashy, nothing that suggests emotional turmoil. The district attorney's office requires professionalism, not theatrics. Before leaving, I check the security system one final time. All cameras operational, all sensors active. William's supervised visit is scheduled for 2 p.m. giving me ample time to meet with prosecutors and return home before his arrival. The Suffolk County District Attorney's Office occupies an austere building downtown, all practical functionality with none of the Sullivan Group's ostentatious glamour. Assistant District Attorney Caroline Myers greets me with a firm handshake and direct eye contact. Her no-nonsense demeanor is exactly what this situation requires. "Mrs. Sullivan, thank you for coming in. We've reviewed the preliminary evidence, and frankly, we're looking at potential charges beyond simple embezzlement." Rebecca, seated beside me, raises an eyebrow. "What additional charges are you considering?" "Wire fraud, tax evasion, identity theft, and potentially conspiracy," Ada Myers replies, opening a thick folder. The methods Mr. Sullivan used to divert funds crossed several jurisdictional and legal boundaries. Additionally, we're examining whether Ms. Prentice's involvement rises to the level of criminal conspiracy. I maintain my composure, though internally, I'm processing the escalating consequences of William's actions. This is no longer simply about restitution to the family. He's facing serious federal charges. "What do you need from me?" I ask, my voice steady. A complete statement detailing when you first became aware of the financial irregularities, how you gathered evidence, and any conversations with Mr. Sullivan that might establish intent. She slides a formal statement form across the table. "And we'll need copies of everything you discovered in his office and your home." For the next 3 hours, I walk the prosecutors through William's elaborate scheme, providing documentation for each transaction, each deception, each step in his plan. The evidence paints a damning picture not of impulsive bad decisions, but of calculated, systematic fraud. "One final question, Mrs. Sullivan," Ada Myers says as our meeting concludes. "Given your position as trustee and your professional background, why wait so long to take action? This appears to have been ongoing for years." The question is fair, though it carries an implied criticism. I meet her gaze steadily. Financial fraud investigations require complete documentation to be successful. Acting too soon, with partial evidence, would have allowed William to create plausible explanations or destroy records we hadn't yet secured. I needed incontrovertible proof that would stand up in both civil and criminal proceedings. She nods, apparently satisfied with my answer. "Your thoroughness will certainly make our job easier. We'll be in touch regarding next steps." As we leave the DA's office, Rebecca checks her watch. "It's nearly 1:30. Are you sure you want to be at the house when William arrives?" "Absolutely," I reply, sliding into the back seat of the waiting car. I want to see his face when he realizes every hiding place is empty. The drive back to Beacon Hill is tense with anticipation. When we arrive, a police cruiser is already parked outside, early, which irritates me. I prefer to control the timing of confrontations. Officer Daniels, a stocky man with a weathered face, approaches as I exit the car. "Mrs. Sullivan, we're here to supervise Mr. Sullivan's court-approved visit to collect personal belongings." "He's already here?" I ask, noting another vehicle, presumably an unmarked police car, parked across the street. "Yes, ma'am. Waiting in our vehicle until you arrived, as per the court order." I nod, straightening my jacket. "Let's proceed then." William emerges from the unmarked car, looking nothing like the polished financial executive he pretends to be. His designer suit is rumpled, his hair uncombed, dark circles shadowing his eyes. The night in custody has stripped away his carefully maintained facade. Our eyes meet across the sidewalk. For a brief moment, I see a flash of his old arrogance, the certainty that he can charm or manipulate his way out of any situation. Then reality seems to hit him, and his expression hardens. "The court has allowed Mr. Sullivan 30 minutes to collect essential personal items only," Officer Daniels explains as we approach the front door. "We'll be present throughout the visit." I unlock the door, stepping aside to allow them entry. William moves past me without acknowledgement, his shoulder deliberately brushing against mine. a petty power play that almost makes me smile in its predictability. Your things are where you left them, I say coolly, though you may find your hiding places less useful than you expected. He shoots me a look of pure venom before ascending the stairs to our bedroom, the officers following close behind. I remain in the foyer, listening to his footsteps move from room to room, growing increasingly frantic as he discovers each empty hiding place. 10 minutes later, he storms down the stairs, face flushed with rage. What have you done with my things? My personal documents? If you mean the offshore account information, the fake passports, or perhaps the draft divorce papers, I reply calmly. They're with the district attorney now, along with everything else you thought you'd hidden so cleverly. William lunges toward me, stopping abruptly when Officer Daniels steps between us. You had no right, he spits. Those were private documents. Actually, as trustee of the Sullivan Family Trust, I had every right to investigate financial irregularities. My voice remains measured, controlled. And as your wife, I had every right to know you were planning to abandon our marriage once you'd stolen enough money. Sir, I need you to calm down, Officer Daniels warns. Remember the conditions of your release. William's jaw clenches as he fights for control. I need to collect my clothes and personal items. Of course, I gesture toward the stairs. Your clothes are still in your closet. Your cufflinks and watches are in your dresser. Everything else of significance is now evidence in a criminal investigation. He turns away, stomping back upstairs with the officers in tow. Through the home security app on my phone, I watch him frantically checking each of his former hiding places, finding nothing but empty spaces where his secrets once lived. When he returns to the foyer carrying a hastily packed suitcase, his composure has fractured completely. Gone is the smooth-talking financial advisor, replaced by a cornered man facing the consequences of his actions. This isn't over, Lauren, he hisses, quiet enough that the officers can pretend not to hear. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I step closer, keeping my voice equally low. No, William. You had no idea who you were dealing with. That was your mistake. Something in my tone must register because uncertainty flickers across his face, perhaps the first real understanding that he miscalculated fundamentally in his assessment of me. Time's up, Mr. Sullivan, Officer Daniels announces. We need to return you to the courthouse for your check-in. As they escort him to the door, William pauses for one final attempt. Lauren, be reasonable. We can still fix this. Just tell them. It was a misunderstanding, that you overreacted. The family doesn't really want a public scandal. I study him for a moment, this man I married, this stranger I've been documenting like a specimen under glass. The family wants justice, William. And so do I. The door closes behind him, and I watch through the security monitor as he's escorted to the waiting police car. His shoulders are slumped now, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. My phone buzzes with a text from Edward Sullivan. How did it go? As expected, I reply. He found nothing useful, and he's beginning to understand that his usual tactics won't work. Edward's response is immediate. Good. The family council has reviewed your proposal. We vote tomorrow on your permanent appointment as CFO and trustee. I set the phone down, a sense of grim satisfaction settling over me. William's visit has confirmed what I already knew. He has no contingency plan, no hidden leverage, no secret weapon to regain what he's lost. All he has left are empty threats and the dawning realization that he severely underestimated the woman he married. Through the window, I watch the police car pull away from the curb, carrying William back to his new reality. One where his name no longer opens doors, his charm no longer deflects questions, and his wife no longer plays the role he assigned her. The game is over. He just hasn't fully accepted it yet. 1 month later, the dust has finally begun to settle. I sit in my new office, the corner suite that once belonged to Edward Sullivan, reviewing the latest trust fund performance reports. The Boston skyline stretches out before me, a glittering testament to generations of Sullivan family success that I helped preserve. The Wall Street Journal piece just went live, Stephanie announces, entering with her tablet. Today's headline: Sullivan Trust Revival, How Strategic Oversight Saved a Family Fortune. Any mention of William? I ask, though I already know the answer. Only as a cautionary tale. They're calling it the ultimate case study in trust fund governance. Your quotes about financial responsibility are featured prominently. I smile, remembering the interview I'd given last week. I'd been careful to focus on the importance of proper oversight rather than personal drama. The Sullivans, after all, still have a reputation to maintain. My phone lights up with a notification from the federal prosecutor's office. William's plea deal has been finalized. In exchange for a reduced sentence of 7 years, he's agreed to provide evidence against larger financial fraud schemes he'd become entangled with. His new accommodations are quite a step down from the Four Seasons, Stephanie observes dryly, showing me the federal prison's location on her tablet. Though I hear the jumpsuit orange brings out his eyes. Natasha sent another request, Rebecca adds, entering with more papers. She's offering to write a tell-all about William's schemes in exchange for immunity. Tell her the federal prosecutors already have everything they need, I reply, pulling up our evidence files. Her Instagram posts provided more than enough documentation. Through my office windows, I can see the trust fund's investment team hard at work under my leadership. In the month since I officially took control, we've already recovered every dollar William stole and implemented new safeguards to prevent future manipulation. Mrs. Sullivan, my assistant calls over the intercom. The family council is ready for your quarterly presentation. I gather my materials, including the comprehensive recovery plan I've implemented. The numbers tell a story of resurrection. Assets secured, investments stabilized, legacy protected. Lauren, Eleanor greets me warmly as I enter the boardroom. She's adapted to our new dynamic with remarkable grace, treating me more as a daughter than ever now that I've saved her family's fortune from her own son. The private banking community is calling you the trust fund whisperer, Edward adds with a proud smile. He's fully recovered from his heart surgery, thanks partly to the stress reduction of knowing his family's wealth is in capable hands. Speaking of community reactions, Stephanie interjects, checking her messages. William's old social circle has been quite active. The Somerset Club just voted to remove his name from the membership rolls permanently. I take my place at the bow, head of the boardroom table, the same spot where William once practiced his fraudulent presentations. The symmetry isn't lost on me. Before we begin, I address the assembled council. I want to share some updates about our enhanced security measures. My presentation outlines the new system of checks and balances I've implemented. Multiple layers of oversight, regular audits, transparent reporting. Everything William tried to circumvent, now strengthened beyond manipulation. The forensic team found something interesting in William's old files, Rebecca mentions during a break. Love letters to Natasha written on trust fund letterhead. He was planning to propose at the family's holiday gala. How romantic, I comment, dryly. Nothing says true love like embezzled diamonds. My phone buzzes with another update, William's lawyer making one last desperate attempt at negotiation. He's offering to reveal the location of more hidden accounts in exchange for a reduced restitution payment. Tell him not to bother, I instruct Rebecca. We've already found everything, including the Bitcoin wallet he thought was untraceable. The afternoon brings a steady stream of developments. William's remaining club memberships canceled, his social media accounts suspended, his personal credit rating destroyed, his reputation in financial circles irreparable. His sister Elizabeth called, Stephanie informs me. She's ready to sign over her children's trust fund oversight to you as well. Says she can't think of anyone better to protect their future. I accept the responsibility with a nod. The Bennett children's futures will be secure. a stark contrast to their uncle's current situation. "The media wants to know if you'll attend next month's charity gala," my assistant mentions. "You're being honored for your work in financial oversight and trust fund governance." "Confirm the attendance," I decide, "but keep the focus on financial responsibility, not personal drama." As evening approaches, I review one final set of documents, the complete record of William's downfall. Trust fund manipulation documented, personal account theft proven, federal charges filed, family reputation preserved, justice served. My phone shows one last notification for the day: William's final attempt to access his old trust fund accounts from the prison's computer lab. Even now, he hasn't quite accepted his new reality. "Should we tell him about the foundation?" Stephanie asks, referring to the new Sullivan Family Financial Literacy Initiative I've established. It's rather ironic, using recovered funds from his theft to educate others about trust fund responsibility. "Let him read about it in the Financial Times," I reply, closing my laptop. "I hear they deliver to federal prisons." Eleanor appears in my doorway, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Lauren, we just got William's letter. He's finally apologizing, says he understands now what he lost." "Too late," I observe quietly. "By exactly 4 years, 3 months, and 22 days. We stand together at my office window, watching the sunset over Boston Harbor. Somewhere, in a federal prison, William sits in a cell, probably wondering how his perfect life unraveled so completely. Somewhere in Philadelphia, Natasha works at her parents' yoga studio, her dreams of society life shattered like the trust she helped betray. And here I stand, in the office that once represented everything William thought he deserved, protecting the legacy he tried to steal. My phone buzzes with an incoming email, another financial publication requesting an interview about trust fund governance. "They're calling you the new face of financial stewardship," Eleanor mentions, reading over my shoulder. "The woman who modernized trust fund oversight." I smile, thinking of all the nights William spent explaining basic finance to his simple wife, never realizing he was lecturing a financial expert about his own impending downfall. "The family lawyers want to know if you'll consider writing a book," Rebecca adds, "about protecting generational wealth from internal threats." "Perhaps," I muse, gathering my things for the day. "I certainly have enough material." As I prepare to leave, my security feed shows William's last possessions being removed from the brownstone: his beloved wine collection, his designer wardrobe, his carefully curated art pieces, all being liquidated to repay his debt to the trust fund. "One last thing," Stephanie calls out. "The federal prosecutors want to know if you'll testify at his sentencing hearing next month." I consider this, remembering every lie, every betrayal, every moment he underestimated me. No need, I decide. The evidence speaks for itself. Stepping into my private elevator, I think about the day William first brought me home to meet his family. How he showcased me like a prize, never bothering to look deeper than the surface. How he dismissed my interest in the family business as cute. My phone holds his final message, sent through his lawyer this morning. "I finally understand what you were protecting, what I threw away. I'm sorry." Too late, William. You never realized that the real power wasn't in the trust fund itself, but in the trust you betrayed. And now you have the rest of your sentence to contemplate the true cost of underestimating the woman who held your future in her hands all along. 6 months after William's sentencing, I stand at the podium of the Boston Financial Forum, addressing a room full of the city's most prominent trust fund managers and financial advisors. The irony isn't lost on me, speaking about financial security to the same people who once dismissed me as nothing more than a trophy wife. The greatest threat to generational wealth, I tell them, my voice carrying clearly through the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza, isn't external. It's the complacency that comes from believing your position is untouchable. The audience hangs on every word. After all, The Sullivan Trust Fund case has become required reading at top business schools across the country. Mrs. Sullivan, one of the senior partners from Goldman Sachs, approaches after my speech. Your insights on trust fund governance are revolutionary. Would you consider joining our board of advisors? I smile, remembering how William used to explain basic investment concepts to me at parties like this. I'll have my office send over my credentials. Later that evening, as my driver navigates through Boston's rain-slicked streets, I receive a notification that makes me pause. William has been transferred to a minimum security facility after providing substantial assistance in prosecuting several major financial fraud cases. His sentence has been reduced by 2 years for cooperation. I close the notification without emotion. William's fate no longer concerns me. The chapter of my life that included him closed the day I signed those papers in Rebecca's office. My brownstone, now completely redecorated, all traces of William erased, welcomes me with warm light. As I step inside, shedding my coat, I notice an elegant envelope on the entrance table, hand-delivered according to my assistant's note. Inside, an invitation from Edward and Eleanor Sullivan to a private dinner at their Beacon Hill home. Unusual, given that our professional relationship has been conducted primarily at the Sullivan Group offices since William's conviction. When I arrive at their historic mansion the following evening, I'm surprised to find only the 3 of us in attendance. No other family members, no business associates, just Edward, Eleanor, and me. Lauren, Edward begins after dinner has been served. We've asked you here for a rather personal reason. Eleanor reaches for her husband's hand, their fingers intertwining, with practiced ease. We've been discussing the future of the Sullivan name. I maintain my composure, though internally I'm curious where this conversation is leading. I understand. The family reputation has been a priority in our recovery strategy. Not just the reputation, Edward says quietly. The legacy itself. Eleanor takes over, her voice gentle but firm. William was our only child. We had always assumed the Sullivan name would continue through him, that our grandchildren would someday inherit what generations before us built. I'm sorry, I say, genuinely meaning it. Whatever William's failings, his parents deserved better than having their family line end with a convicted felon. We've come to a decision, Edward continues. With the approval of the extended family, we'd like to formally adopt you as our daughter. The offer is so unexpected that for a moment I'm speechless. Not just a professional position, but a personal one. Legal recognition as their child. This isn't about the money or the business, Eleanor adds quickly. You've already proven yourself more than capable of managing those. This is about family, about making official what we already feel, that you are the Sullivan who will carry our values forward. I don't know what to say, I manage finally. You don't have to answer tonight, Edward assures me. It's a significant decision. But know that regardless of your choice, your position as trustee and CFO remains secure. The drive home gives me time to process their extraordinary offer, becoming not just the guardian of the Sullivan fortune, but a Sullivan by name, the ultimate repudiation of William's belief that I was merely an accessory to his ambitions. 2 days later, I sign the adult adoption papers in Edward's study, the same room where William first explained the Sullivan Trust to me years ago, condescendingly, simplifying concepts I already understood. There's one more thing, Eleanor says after the documents are completed. She hands me a small velvet box. Inside, the Sullivan family signet ring, worn by the head of the family for generations. This belongs to you now, Edward explains. Not as William's wife, but as our successor. The weight of the gold ring feels right on my finger, a perfect fit, as though it had been waiting for me all along. That weekend, the Boston Globe runs a small announcement in the society pages. Edward and Eleanor Sullivan announced the formal adoption of Lauren Elizabeth Sullivan, née Mitchell, as their daughter and heir. Ms. Sullivan, who currently serves as Chief Financial Officer of the Sullivan Group and trustee of the Sullivan Family Trust, will continue the family's legacy of financial stewardship and philanthropic leadership in the Boston community. No mention of William. No reference to the scandal. Just a simple acknowledgement of a new chapter in the Sullivan family history. In my office on Monday morning, I find a letter delivered to reception, the return address showing William's prison facility. I consider throwing it away unopened, but eventually decide to read it. Lauren, I heard about the adoption. Somehow, it seems fitting that you've replaced me so completely. Perhaps you were always meant to be the Sullivan, not me. I hope someday you might find it in your heart to visit. If not, I understand. I place the letter in my shredder without response. William still doesn't understand that this was never about replacing him or taking what was his. It was about protecting what he never valued enough to preserve. That afternoon, I present the quarterly performance report to the family council, now legally my family in every sense. The Sullivan fortune continues to grow under my management, the legacy secure for generations to come. As I stand at the head of the table, the family signet ring catching the light, I realize the true justice in this outcome. William thought he was marrying a beautiful accessory to enhance his image. Instead, he brought into the Sullivan family the one person who could preserve everything he was willing to destroy. Sometimes, I think, as the council unanimously approves my latest investment strategy, underestimating the quiet one in the room isn't just a mistake. It's destiny's way of ensuring that power finds its rightful home.